Hey, everybody. Welcome to Badass Banter. My name is Carol Filion. You probably noticed that there's a very different background here, but we're trying something new. It's all good. It's all about change. For those of you that don't know me, I am a mindset coach and mentor. I help mature women tap into their inner badass and give themselves permission to finally step into their God-given greatness so they can enjoy their third act with joy and intention, so that they can use those decades of knowledge, insights, power, and put it to good use so they can leave a powerful legacy. That's my jam. I am also the host of Badass Banter, where you are today. And Badass Banter, for those that are maybe new to this, it's a hybrid of group discussion and podcast interviews. And this week it's a podcast interview. It's pre-recorded, so feel free to leave your comments, questions, where we're going to be streaming, and that is you'll be able to see this on the Badass Banter channel on YouTube, in the Mindset Mavericks Facebook group, as well as my profile on LinkedIn. So, like I said, post your questions in the comments on any of these channels, and let's get started. So, my guest this week is an absolute powerhouse. I am speaking with Angeline Constantinou, and she is a woman's empowerment partner dedicated to helping women who have suffered domestic abuse. And she helps them regain their power and acquire the necessary tools to heal and embrace goodness and love in their lives. Very important work. She's the expert of her own experience, so she understands the journey firsthand, and she's determined to provide guidance and community so women can thrive to be victorious in their lives. The pivotal moment in Angeline's life came when she made the courageous decision to leave an abusive ex-husband, a step that marked her transition from victim to victor. Since then, she's embarked on a path of personal growth, crafting a new plan and establishing a community built on trust and security. Through this process, she discovered that she was not alone in her journey. Today, Angeline collaborates with remarkable women communities, including the Millionaire Mentorship Group, where she hosts webinars and serves as a guest speaker on influential platforms such as the Pink Panther podcast, Inspired News Radio, the Change Book podcast, and Women for Women Radio Network right here in Canada. Her diverse experiences and personal growth journey have led Angeline to establish her own coaching business, specializing in supporting women as they navigate the transition from overwhelming confusion to confidence and readiness to pursue their true calling. Please help me welcome to the virtual stage, Angeline Constantinou. Hi, Angeline. Oh, you're on mute. There
Hi,
we
I'm
go.
here. Good morning, Carol.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you? I'm so thrilled you're here. This is going to be such an important discussion because there is such a need for the work that you do. So,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
so
I'm
let's
honored
let's
to be
start
here.
with that. Oh, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that we were able to get this together because it took us a few tries.
I know.
Busy women, baby, busy women.
Busy women. That's right. That's right. But all good. All good.
So,
So,
Angeline, as a women's empowerment partner, tell us a little bit about yourself.
yes. Okay. So, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show today, Carol.
My pleasure.
Truly honored and blessed. So, who is Angeline?
Yeah.
So, actually, who is Angeline today versus 15 years ago. So
Mm.
actually, I was born and raised in Minnesota. I worked in the family business. So I would say, I had that entrepreneurial spirit in me. And I decided that I wanted a better life for myself. And I decided to move to New York in 1985. So I went to college. My background is in sales and marketing, and I was going to graduate from college. However, I met the person who I thought was going to be the love of my life,
Mm.
and he worked in advertising, sales, and marketing. He was making six-figure income. I actually lived on a yacht, on a 38-foot Carver Mariner yacht for a little over a year before we got
Wow.
married, and he was a very successful businessman. So I was attracted to that. So I was in my 20s, and we decided to get married in Rhinebeck, New York, at the Justice of the Peace in September. I think it was in August of 1989. So we tied the knot, we bought a house, and people, and we had a, we also had a business in New York City. We also had a rental. So we were making a lot of money. We were
Mm.
making a lot of money. I was doing the sales for him. And basically, I would go out on the road, knock on doors back in the day, get
Yep.
clients, and I was the one who brought in money. I was the one who brought in the sales for the business. Plus, I trained interns as well.
Amazing.
So, what happened was in September of 2001, as most people know, the World Trade
Mm.
Center collapsed, and business income fell 90% that year. So we were in the hole financially. And the abuse didn't happen right away. So I went out to work in corporate America for different companies, ad agencies, advertising firms, like national companies.
Mhm.
And sadly, his he didn't show support, even though I was
Mm.
bringing in the money, because his business fell. His
Right.
business
So
just
you
went
became
down.
the major wage earner after the collapse of the business.
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
Okay.
Yes, yes,
Interesting.
yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I became, the wage maker. Right, exactly. I
Hmm.
became, and the more independent the more I was out there independently, he displayed jealousy, anger, resentment, because I was getting all the attention. He
Oh,
felt that I was getting all the attention. I mean, when in reality, I was out there, busting my butt,
yeah.
like they say, because at that time, before, technology has evolved since then.
Hmm.
I was out on the road every single day, 5 days a week, driving, I would say 400 miles a week. And I
Wow.
mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. And I became connected. We had like that bond with my colleagues, and he just he did not like that. So he started to, first it was verbal abuse. So,
Okay.
yeah, so domestic violence started, and he, I struggled, with bringing this out in the open much earlier.
Mm.
So he, so this is essentially what he did. He wrote letters to the New York State Police and the local sheriff's offices, basically admonishing me, making me the villain. He vilified me. He would
Mm.
vilify me in public at events, or like at a family event. And he told everyone that I was no good
Mm.
and I was causing all the problems, when in fact
Wow.
it was the other way around. He
Right.
was causing all kinds of, there was rifts in the family. Um, and even, with myself, verbal abuse is very bad, because your self-esteem starts to go downhill, and then you kind of like say, oh,
Yeah.
is this all my fault?
Right.
Maybe this is all my fault. And
Yeah.
it puts you in a downward spiral.
You start second
So,
guessing yourself. You start
right,
second
you're
guessing
second guessing yourself.
every move
Every
you
move I'm
made.
making, I'm like, wait a
Yeah.
minute.
Totally get
And
it. Yeah.
yeah, and I realized that he was not going to change.
Mm. Hmm.
He was not, and I couldn't do anything to change him. So that was, one issue that was facing me. And
The
another
beginning of the
issue,
end, really. It's the
Right,
beginning of the end.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he denied access to my bank accounts, to our
Oh,
bank accounts,
wow. Okay.
because he thought that I was bouncing checks. So I found
Mhm.
out that he was writing balance transfer checks against our credit so he could buy mutual funds.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
I found myself $50,000 in the hole,
Wow.
like literally in debt. And because I remember one day I was driving to the bank. Actually, I was collecting unemployment because I lost my job, and I lost, like, I basically lost everything. I had $20 to my name in my purse going to the bank to withdraw money, and they told me the bank account has been drained. I'm like,
Wow.
what just happened?
Wow.
Yeah, it was really bad. It was really bad.
So what do you
And
do in a situation like that? Like what did you do?
I went to my parents.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I had a supportive family. I went to parents. I had to borrow some money
Hmm.
so I could file for divorce, because I woke up one morning in May of 2010, and I realized that this marriage was not going anywhere. So I filed for divorce. I hired a high-powered attorney out of Poughkeepsie, New York, and I wrote out a check for $5,000 to start divorce proceedings.
Wow.
And you know what? I said to myself, number one, what good is the money if you're miserable? And yeah, it's just, I mean, I was collecting unemployment, and I had to move my bank account. I had to
Mm,
change my phone number. I went for therapy, for a little over a year, and I worked with a caseworker for 1 year during
okay.
my transition because I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel, there was a protective order. I was basically living like a gypsy
Mm.
for 1 year, staying in people's houses, like motel
This is very
rooms.
tenuous
Very tenuous time, and I was afraid.
situation.
Like, we
Wow.
literally, I was literally, living from, hand to mouth. But fortunately, see, I was the one who asked for support,
Mm,
so I asked for support,
right.
and you cannot do this alone. You cannot do this alone. If you think you could do this alone, no. It takes a village.
Yeah.
It
Agreed.
takes a village.
Like
Absolutely.
Jack Canfield says, right? Ask, believe, receive, right?
That's right.
When you're, yeah, when you're down to
Exactly.
nothing, God's up to something.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. And
So based on what your experiences, and since then you've been working with women to help them transition out after,
mhm,
or even more so after they've transitioned out, right? Or do
right.
you help them make that move, or do you leave that to the government agencies like you?
Actually, that's a very good question. So I help women who have already transitioned out of domestic violence.
Got it.
And a perfect example of this was I had a client from Australia. So this is a worldwide issue, worldwide
Mhm.
epidemic, because I did a lot of research. And this girl came to me. She has an autistic son, and she came to me to seek help because she was out of her marriage, I believe, for 5 years and still struggling. She was struggling with her self esteem, her confidence, and gaining clarity on who she truly is, and that requires coaching, peeling back the layers, because I went through the same thing, a lot of mindfulness techniques, and I go through a lot of mindset work and mirror work and uncovering those self-limiting beliefs, because there were self-limiting beliefs that were holding her back. And she was also seeking a community of support. So I have a private Facebook group of
Excellent.
women who have gone through domestic violence,
Mhm.
and now they are ready to amplify their voice and receive the healing and goodness that they deserve, because they deserve to live an abundant life. I mean, they see my journey because I got involved in the online space, transitioning out of domestic violence. I became involved in a network marketing company,
Mhm.
a health and wellness that changed my life at the time. And I'm proud to say that I turned that into a full time income. And
Amazing.
yeah, which was great because I was able to, live on that income and,
Mhm.
work my passion. In other words, I help women rediscover their passions. What was their true passion as a child? What did you want to be when you grew up? Because oftentimes, we don't realize what lights us up.
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
for this, this nice, I call her nice young lady, she
Mhm.
went through coaching with me for 9 weeks and she found her true passion. Guess what? Selling makeup.
Amazing,
Do you see
right?
that? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And probably something that got buried under so much virus code
Mhm.
that was kind of right. I mean, that's the way I see it. It's virus code when when you're in that kind of situation that's
Right.
abusive, right? It's just you get buried under the self-doubt and
There you go.
everything else, and so all of that those childhood wishes and dreams kind of get put not just on the back burner, they're buried.
They're buried, and
They're
that's
completely
because
buried.
this happened to me too, because the abuser puts you down. Oh, you can't
Mm,
do that. How can you sell
right,
makeup? How can
right,
you work a health and wellness company? Are you kidding me?
right,
Really?
right.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
they get put down. I mean, they
yeah,
get, yeah, there's gaslighting that's involved. There's gaslighting,
probably a big piece
and
there. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's
which is really
psychological abuse, right? That
psychological
it doesn't
abuse.
always leave physical bruises, does it?
That's true. That's true.
Mm.
And I actually was physically abused. So in
So you had
going back,
both.
yeah, 1999, I was lying in bed I had showered, was lying in my bed with my robe, and I was literally crying. I started to cry
Mm,
because he went ballistic. He
mm,
just went ballistic and said things that weren't right. And
mhm,
I said, you know what? Let me just go into the other bedroom because we
mhm,
had a 3 bedroom cape. So I said, let me just go into the other bedroom and the guest room and I'll just sleep
mhm.
there. And I didn't make it in there.
Oh
I
wow,
never made it. He took me from the back of my neck and he threw me against the wall near the
wow,
bathroom and I fell backwards.
mm, wow.
And
Okay.
I had a broken nose. My nose was shattered. I had black and blue. I was bleeding. And I ended up going to the emergency room that night. But I lied there for a minute and I looked up and I was just praying to God. I said, God, please save me. I mean, I
Mm,
could hardly talk. I mean, it could have been a lot worse. I didn't have a concussion or anything. It was just a broken nose.
but
And
still,
I had reconstructive nose surgery 3 days later. And I was in the hospital overnight because they gave me an overdose of Demerol. So, to relieve the pain.
right.
And I became sick. So I had to, stay overnight. But other than that,
Was
I mean,
that the breaking point? Was that where it was kind of okay, this is it. I got to get
yeah,
out of here.
actually, I thought that was a breaking point, but that wasn't it. I went through, like things would be good for a while, for a couple of
Mhm.
weeks, and then he would act up, and then because he wanted to
Okay.
show support, but also make me the villain at the same time,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's where shame comes in
That's
because
right.
I
I was just
felt
going to ask you,
ashamed.
like, what do you feel is the number one reason why women
Yes,
stay or they try to,
ashamed.
yeah.
They're ashamed to tell their story because they fear it's fear of what other people think.
Mhm.
So I was afraid at the time. Me coming from a Greek family, there's generational, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
generational, like you have to stay with the husband no matter what. And that was not me
Mm,
because as I went for therapy, I realized that I could live on my own
right.
and I could rebuild my life back, which I have done. So,
Yeah.
which I accomplished in 1 year. I mean, it's a process. It's a process. and I sought mentorship. I surrounded myself with people who were on a higher level than me to get me where I wanted to be a year later. Because there is one of the things that women struggle with, especially women who have gone through domestic violence, is it's mindfulness. So they they're operating from a place of scarcity because they feel that there's nothing out there.
Mm,
There's lack and there's not enough money.
mm,
However, I was able to go from a scarcity mindset to a growth mindset, meaning there is abundance out there. You can live the life that you truly deserve to live. And that requires a lot of mindfulness. A
yeah.
lot of there's meditations, there's
Mhm.
on peeling back the layers, because these women have been, they've been put down, and basically they're coming from a place where they have to build themselves back up.
Right.
They have to want it, meaning playing, there's only so long that are you are playing the victim,
Mhm.
or just, like you have to like snap out of it
Mhm. Yeah.
and
But it
playing
takes
just
it
live
takes
your life.
help, right? You need help.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
you
you
say it
need help.
yourself on your website. You say I always say have an exit plan, communicate with security, and don't do it alone. Because you look at
Exactly.
this young woman from Australia, right? 5 years of living with
Right.
that mindset. It was just on repeat, right? She needed help to pull her out of that. And that's the
Exactly.
snap out of it, I guess, element to it. But
Mm.
you need someone to kind of yank you out of there as well.
Exactly. You need someone who has gone through what I
Right.
went through.
Right.
Like,
Right.
so whatever I went through,
Hmm.
I sought help, I sought mentorship,
Hmm.
so therapy. I had a caseworker who worked with me for a little over a year, and then I was able to, move into ownership and move into my true purpose and calling. So,
Right. Yeah. So you just mentioned mentorship. So what
hmm,
should a woman coming out of a situation like that look for in a mentor? How do you find one?
that's a good question. So, how I find a mentor is someone who is, number one, heart centered, number
Mhm.
two, someone who has actually gone through domestic violence,
Mhm.
or so let's say that I have transitioned out and I'm looking for a mentor. I look for someone who actually went through it.
Mm.
And that's what I did, because I realized that in the online space, there are women out there who have gone through similar to what I went through, yet they
Right.
have the tools and techniques to help them move into ownership. So I seek someone, not someone who is necessarily a guru who charges a lot of money. I seek someone, a mentor who has gone through
Who's
what
walked the
I
walk?
walk the walk, right?
Yeah.
You walk the walk. So I've walked the walk. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
And it that can have kind of a
and
double-edged sword to it as well,
mm,
right? Because
right.
sometimes they might look at they might go to your website and look at everything that you've accomplished, and maybe they can't imagine that
Mm,
great a life when they're in the thick of things. So when if that, if someone is feeling that, what's on maybe if we were to give them a little bit of hope, what's on the other side of taking those first steps? What would you say? Like, yeah, you're not going to go from 0 to 60, but here's
no.
the first thing that is going to make it all worthwhile when you take those steps of courage. What would you say is there?
Okay. So the first thing is taking ownership.
Yeah.
I surrendered. I just surrendered. I surrendered to God, and I said, that's it. That's it. I don't want to live this way anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And you reach a breaking point. So I reached a breaking point where I am not going to live like this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That was a total that was a total shift, a mindset shift for me.
Mm,
And the second thing, I was taught to love myself
nice.
because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Mm,
Love yourself first, pamper yourself, go to a spa. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money either. I mean, if you just want to go for a nice meditative walk in the park, I did that many times.
right.
Read a book,
Right.
start journaling, do some mindfulness meditation. And I
Go to a
incorporate
library.
go to I
Library.
went to the library. I love the library. So
Quiet.
quiet. Go someplace where it's quiet
Yes.
and
Yes.
eliminate the noise, you know? Um, because on social media, sometimes what people portray on social media is not necessarily reality.
No.
Okay.
No.
So like for myself, I had to learn not to compare myself to other people. That's 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 a, that's a
Yeah.
mindset shift too. That's a technique that I had to learn. But basically, I shared my story in March of 2018 because my mentor saw something at the time. He said, "You haven't shared your story with the world yet."
Mm.
Oh, I said, "You're right." This is like 8 years later. I said, "You're right." So I went on live. I took the phone. The phone was shaking. I was in my one bedroom apartment and I went live for 18 minutes and I poured my heart and soul out there. And after that, 7 million views later, there were
Wow.
people were sharing my story. I mean, it went for 3 days. I was like, oh my goodness, what did I just do? And guess
Wow.
what? That was a breakthrough.
Right.
That
Yeah,
was a
because that was
huge
one of the questions I
breakthrough.
had. So yeah, that was the connecting moment, wasn't it?
Right,
Between
right.
your situation and launching what essentially could be called a movement. You've really,
I've launched a movement. Yes,
yeah,
I
yeah,
have
that's
launched a
really what it
movement.
is. Yeah.
Launched a movement and a community of sisterhood. So
Right.
I became inspired to start my podcast 2 months before COVID hit,
Wow.
not knowing that COVID was going to happen. So I was working full time for an ad agency. I was making good money. I was traveling a lot, but something was missing. I said, this is not, I said, this is not my true passion and calling.
Mm,
Yes, I did make money. I met a lot of people, which was, great and everything. But what I really wanted to do was start my podcast to
right.
break the silence
Mm,
on domestic violence because number one, no one wants to talk about it, not even our legislatures.
right.
And they don't want to talk about it. This is an issue that is shoved under the carpet.
Mm,
And no one can, I mean, you can stand on your head.
mm,
Um, this issue is shoved under the carpet because, no one wants to talk about it. And, I have that passion for helping women. Women need a platform.
right.
So, they, I have like a lot of women in my Facebook group, like they're looking for a platform to have a voice because I've always believed in women amplifying their voices and sharing their true life stories of how, of what happened. And that's not easy. Okay. I've
Mm,
interviewed women who have become TEDx speakers. I mean, there's TEDx speakers and they went through worse than what I went through.
mm. But like
So
you said, there's
because
a shame element to it, right?
there's a
Until
shame element, right?
that's why I love the name of um your
I came up
organization.
with that. Let's break the
Let's
silence.
break the silence.
Yeah.
And I think there's some sort of divine peace around you starting your podcast just before COVID, because if I'm not mistaken, there was actually a spike in domestic
Oh
violence
yeah.
during COVID, right? I mean, everybody's on lockdown.
We, especially in
Emotions
New
are
York,
high.
we
Yeah.
emotions are high. And I remember there was a friend of a friend reached out to me because she was going through domestic violence and all of a sudden everything was shut down in New York City.
Yikes.
And she had a small child.
Mm,
And I empowered her. I said, everything's going to be okay. I said, what I would do is contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline and seek shelter. So she became so empowered. Like, she was like, oh my gosh. She goes, I could really, I said, you can escape. I said, just call them.
Mm.
Call them.
And she was able to?
She was able to. She found housing 48 hours later,
Wow.
a studio apartment. And so she escaped with her
Hmm.
son because,
Hmm.
she's a mom.
Right.
And now she's helping other women do the same. So,
Amazing.
see, it's just something that I said to her
Hmm.
that flipped the switch. And this happened to another woman too. Not, she doesn't live in New York, she lives out of state. Same thing happened to her. And now she works at a domestic violence shelter. I mean,
Yeah, because
she,
if the woman doesn't know where to look, or
right.
the person doesn't know where to look, because I mean, it could be either or, right? I mean, it could
Either
be
or, exactly.
right.
Exactly.
But so yeah, so where do they like what are the where do they turn to when they if they don't know, they're in the thick of things and they really don't know, like where did you find your help? You said you had a therapist.
I had a
Um,
therapist. I contacted the authorities who
mhm,
cooperated with me.
okay.
So the New York State Police cooperated with me,
Hmm.
and they told me, wherever you go, just let us know where you are. And
Wow.
a few times I stopped keeping track, but I had to call the police, and I actually had to leave.
Mm.
I actually had to leave the house, and I had to go stay with with friends, or like I would stay with friends for a couple of days. But I mean,
Because
he
it
was
wasn't safe in your own home.
I wasn't safe in my own home.
Wow.
There was just no
Okay.
way.
Wow.
So I, had resources. I went to the library, did some research.
Hmm.
So there are shelters out there. There are agencies out there
Hmm.
that will help you,
Okay.
find housing, counseling services. You would be surprised. But it's
Hmm.
taking that step. It's making that decision,
Right.
taking
Right.
that first step.
Right.
Because the worst thing you could do is stay there, stay in that situation, because it's only going to get worse. And
Mm.
unfortunately, that's why domestic violence is it spiked during
Hmm.
COVID.
Hmm.
And it's even, on the increase now.
Is it
Oh yeah, it's on the increase now.
because of the economy?
The economy, and I feel that it is post COVID. This
Right.
is like the ripple effect.
The
So
hangover. It's the COVID hangover. That's what I call
That's
it.
that's it. That's it. It's the
Yeah.
COVID hangover. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, I mean,
And
there are women, just there's they need help more than ever, you
right.
know. They
I
need
think at the
help.
very basic, on a very basic level, right? I mean, if I can quote Mr. Rogers, who said, look for the
Good. Oh, I love
helpers, look for the helpers,
right.
right? At some point, your instinct is going to guide you, your intuition is going to guide you that, yes, this is someone I can talk to,
Right. Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Find the
Exactly.
helpers. Yeah.
Find helpers. I love that.
Yeah.
Find helpers. Find a community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I have a community of sisterhood, and I intend to build that community up, because this is a global issue. This is
Yeah.
not just in the US, this is overseas, the United
Right.
Kingdom, Australia.
Yeah, you
There's a
said
huge
Australia.
increase
Yeah.
in, yeah, there's a huge increase in domestic violence in Australia, and there's
Mm-hmm.
not enough laws in place
Right.
to protect,
Yeah.
to protect the woman.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Understood.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, Angeline, this is such an important conversation to
Thank
have.
you.
And so tell us a little bit about your programs and
Yes,
what
okay.
happened. So that now they're out of the abusive situation
Mhm.
and they're looking for help. They know they have to do something, something has to change because they're just living the same year over and over again. It's right. It's like Groundhog Day because now their mindset is stuck.
Right, their mindset is stuck, and you don't have to feel stuck.
Mm.
So I take them through a 9-week program. with mentorship.
Mhm.
So I teach them how to help them release and heal those past wounds that have left them feeling overwhelmed, inferior, and lost, and
Mhm.
lost.
Mhm.
So I take them basically through a rediscovery. So going from lost, overwhelmed to feeling empowered
Right.
and healing after domestic violence. So there's, mindfulness every week. I have two types of courses. So they can have, so it's a 9 week program with, they have workbooks, they have, there's tutorial videos. I talk about gratitude, meditation, and then we
Mhm.
start to do the deep work. So the deep
Okay.
work is peeling back the layers in order to rediscover who she truly is. And
Right.
I help them step into, which leads to stepping into their own divine power and truth. So
Amazing.
basically, yeah. So leading them to a breakthrough, and leading them, to have more clarity and confidence, because there's a lot of, mindfulness work that needs to be done to build their self-esteem and confidence back up, because they've been beaten down to the ground. So there's a self-paced course, or we can do 1-on-one Zoom sessions. So they have the option.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do people get a hold of you?
Okay, so they can go to my website, which is letsbreakthesilence.com. And there is a button above there to book a call with me. So I would highly encourage, anyone who has transitioned out of domestic violence and they're seeking help. I will give them a 45-minute, it's like a VIP session, a breakthrough session.
That's amazing. That's
Yes.
amazing. Yeah, very
Yes.
generous.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
And
So,
and you also have a planner that's coming out soon?
yes, a domestic violence healing planner that's going to be coming out very soon. And also, one thing I did not mention, for anyone who signs up for my Let's Break the Silence signature program, they will
Mhm.
get a free copy of this. This is the
That's
change. I'm a co author of a personal development book series that launched, I'm one of 20 authors. So I partnered with Jim Lutz and Jim Rowan, who spearheaded this movement. And my chapter is in there of how I went from a breakdown to a breakthrough after domestic violence. And it gives insights into self empowerment. And this book has launched in 32 countries.
that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's
So for
yeah,
anyone who signs up, they will get a free autographed copy with
that's
Les Brown
fantastic.
on the front cover. And Les
Amazing.
Brown, I love Les Brown. Les Brown is, I mean, he actually, when I went through domestic, like transitioning out, Les Brown was my teacher.
Oh, amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah. I
had a
mean,
very significant played a significant role in
oh,
your
yeah. He,
recovery, as it were.
absolutely.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Because he played, he did play a significant role, with his leadership. And I would always watch his videos, and I still watch his videos today. If you can look up, you can get up.
I love it. I love it. If you can look up, you can get up. I
You
love
can
that.
get up, and that's it. And he's 100% right.
That's brilliant.
So,
That's brilliant.
yeah, so I'm
Okay.
very proud to be part of this movement. So, I'm a featured co author. So, anyone who signs up for my program, they will also receive a free copy of my
That's
book.
fabulous.
Yes.
Fabulous. Well, Angeline, this has been
And that's on my
such an
website, too. Yeah.
oh, fantastic. Even better. So, before we wrap up, any final words, words of wisdom and
Yes.
encouragement for women out there, that woman who is in that situation? What would you say to her?
Don't be silent.
Beautiful.
Don't be silent. because you have a voice
Mm.
and your story, you may not realize that, but your story is going to make an impact on the world. So don't be afraid to go live. All you have to do is just take your phone, press live on Facebook or on TikTok or on Instagram. Go out there and share your story, because because guess what? When I shared my story, there was no TikTok at the time.
Right.
And when people hear your story, they're like, oh my goodness, wow,
That's
you
my
really went
story,
through some,
right? That's just it.
right.
And people realize that they're not alone. You
They're not
realize you're
alone.
not alone when you speak your truth.
Exactly. You're not alone when you speak your truth, and there is power in your voice. Trust me.
Fabulous.
Trust me, there is power in your voice. And these fine gentlemen contacted me last year
Amazing.
because people are watching us.
Right?
We don't realize it, but people are watching us. And one of their staff members contacted me last year, and I feel very grateful that I made the investment, because it's so worth sharing your story and empowerment.
Absolutely. Oh,
Yes.
Angeline, you're such an inspiration. And I see that the work that you're doing is just so, so important in empowering
Thank you so
women.
much.
And so I can't even begin to describe the gratitude I have that you're able to join me for this conversation, this very important conversation. So
Yes.
I thank you for your time. I thank you for your
Welcome.
energy, and I just love you to bits. You
Thank
keep
you.
doing what you're doing.
I love you, Carol. This is amazing. Thank you so much for
Having
having me
me.
on your show.
My
And
pleasure.
yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Honored to be here. Thank you.
You're the bomb.
That's
Take it easy. All
right.
right.
Okay, you
Till next
too.
time. Bye.
Bye.